Hey, this is the Ridge Runner with another Camping with No Budget video. Here, we will go over the unboxing, well, the off-camera unboxing of the Cold Steel Peacemaker 2. Now, I've heard a lot of hype about this knife, and it's definitely in the Camping with No Budget area, as it is under $25. I consider any knife under $25 definitely to be in the high to low budget high-low budget venue of or version of things. The point is that the average person with low income could still afford this knife. Now, some of the reviews have actually gone so far as to say that this knife will give a Mora a run for its money. And as you can see here, we have two Moras that are also in the picture. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this knife up, and we're going to make a comparison between these two. We've got the Mora #2 Classic, and we've got a field line, or craft line, which is definitely in the Camping with No Budget arena. So let's get started. Okay, well, we've got it out of its box, and I want to go on record as saying I hate blister packs. I'm more apt to cut myself off these things than I am off the knives in them. I didn't, but I nearly did. And I have done it before. In fact, I nearly needed stitches because of one of these things. But that's the way of the world nowadays. So, let's get on with the knives, which is why we're all here today. Okay, you can tell just by quick observation that the Peacemaker 2 is considerably wider and longer than the Mora craft line. Same thing goes for the Mora #2. Now, that's not to say that it's less handy, but it is a bit bigger. And if you're into a knife about this size, kind of low profile, this might not be for you. Let's go with the pros, and then we'll go with the cons. Pro is, out of the box, this knife is sharp. It's as sharp as any Mora I've ever received, and it has a Scandinavian grind, at least down here where the working business is. Up here, I'm not entirely sure what they were thinking, but that's okay. It is very, very sharp, and it's a bit shiny, though. Now, I'll go over that in a bit. Now, the next thing that is definitely a pro, if you can look right there, you can see that this knife is, in fact, a full Tang knife. I won't call it full profile Tang, but the Tang extends all the way back here, and it's wide enough that it will... you're not breaking this knife unless the heat treat's wrong on it. All right. Next thing on our list is the comfort of the handle. It's very comfortable in the hand. It's got some knurling of some sort here, pebbling, I guess. And I guess this is knurling here. And I believe this is their Kraton or something similar handle material that they put on a lot of their better knives, the SRK and so forth. That being said, it's a bit thin, but comfortable. Some time in the woods cutting stuff with it will tell me whether or not I'm going to find it as comfortable as, for instance, the SRK. Is it handy? Well, no one can argue that the Mora seems to be, for a lot of people in the bushcraft community, just the right size. Is it the perfect bushcraft knife? Well, that's to be debated. I love them, okay? Love these knives to death. My biggest issue with this knife and that one is the lack of any bolster to speak of to keep my hand from getting onto this razor sharp edge. It is razor sharp. Excuse the fact that there's some rust on these. This is, both of these are the high carbon variety. and there's rust on them. This one here pretty much just lives in a bug out bag that I have in the car. It doesn't get used very often, so it's apparently accumulated stuff. That will be remedied later. Now, let's look at the sheaths. All right, we got the Mora Classic sheath here. Plastic with a plastic thing, belt thingy. This one here is a more traditional, believe it or not, Mora button connection knife, sheath. You put it through, slide it through a thin belt as well. But all plastic, ventilated on the bottom to keep the water, to let the water get out of it, keep moisture down. Doesn't work as well as it should. Might add a couple more holes in that. Now let's look at this. Actually, kind of similar. All plastic. And it comes with this clip, which is quite stiff. I wouldn't say that I'd be too thrilled mounting it to a molly rig without maybe a piece of zip tie around this area here so it won't flop. But the way the knife goes into the sheath is that it is... Here, let's see if I can do this with one hand without gutting myself in the process here. So let's do this. And... Nope, that's not going to work. I'm going to pause. All right. Now, here's the thing. This knife, the handle, is actually shrouded by the upper part of the sheath, as you can see. It also locks the knife into the sheath quite nicely. The advantage of this is you don't need as much of an indentation to clip this into the sheath, which wears out craton, but it adds more friction up here to keep it from sliding out. And I'm giving that a good shake, and it's not coming out. I wouldn't call it jump certified, but maybe with a rubber band around it for the time you're in until you get to the ground. Yeah, I'd say that would, talk to your jump school and decide. But yeah, so now we know that it's a good sharp knife. It's a strong knife, and it has a relatively secure sheath. Let's go to the cons. The sheath. Let's start out with that. Let's bang it with something else. Plastic sheath. Mind you, this Peacemaker is, and I will read whether you ride in a tank, your ride is a tank, a horse, motorcycle, or something in between, the cold steel Peacemaker knives are ready for to be your constant companion. They are astoundingly light, thin, and sharp, featuring sturdy cryo-quenched German 4116 stainless steel and a deeply textured Cray X grip. I guess that's like Creighton, but they make it sound cooler by adding the sound of sex in there. The ambidextrous Secure X sheath and stainless steel clips easily and securely, belt clips securely affixed to the top of your boot or on your belt, making these versatile fixed blades quickly accessible in a flash. Tough, durable, and easy to resharpen. The Peacemakers are ready for any utilitarian or emergency situation you can throw at it. Well, on the very top, they say whether your ride is a tank. Well, that tells me one thing. This knife is being marketed to the military. And as a soldier's knife, in its basic form, it's not bad. And what I mean by a soldier's knife is that a soldier, they're not looking for a survival knife. They make a knife that'll work in a survival situation. What they're looking for, though, is something light. They're looking for something that's going to not wear them down or weigh them down because they're carrying enough gear as it is. So a soldier's knife needs to be light, sharp, and able to do the basic utility tasks necessary for a soldier, such as opening up boxes and MREs and carving stakes for various tasks in the field, and so on and so forth. They are not, and in a pinch, they might need to be used as a weapon. But they're not a sword. They're not a big survival knife. They're just a tool. And for that, this works. However, there is a but. Let's have another look at this knife. Notice something about this knife. My God, if you're out using that you're making your in the sunlight, and there's somebody out there with a rifle that wants to shoot you, well, you just might as well signal them with a mirror. So any soldier carrying this would be very well advised to dull up the blade, not the edge, but the actual blade considerably. Now that can be done in many ways. You can use sandpaper, you can paint it, you can have it professionally sandblasted or coated, which probably costs more than buying the knife itself. I'd recommend the sandpaper or painting option. It's a $20 knife. I'm willing to paint it or use some sandpaper on it. In fact, maybe I'll do an addendum to this where I'll have done that. So, the point is that the knife is very, very shiny. Let's go after the Cray X handle. And I now know why they call it Cray X. See if I can get close enough where you can see this. You can see where I put a mark there already. Let's put another mark there. This is very soft. This is not the Creighton that goes on the SRK. It's a cheap imitation. And you can tell I actually put a cut in that with my fingernail. So this is the sort of thing where it's got a good grip to it, but you got to be careful. It's going to wear down, which means it'll wear down and eventually become loose in the sheath. And it might very well get easily chipped from being banged against things. Probably why they designed the sheath to protect most of the handle, because the handle is going to get the crap kicked out of it in a field or tactical situation. Balance. Actually nice. I can't call that a fault, actually. Basically, at the end of the day, it is a big Mora with a bouncy rubber grip. It has the same shine as a Mora, well, when it's new, and it has the same grind as a Mora. In fact, I wouldn't say that this is much different than the stainless steel Mora in terms of the material it's made of. For bushcraft, quickly handle that. The back end of the knife is really, really has a nice angle to it, so you can use it with a sparking tool. So that's not a problem. You can use it for you can use the same thing for peeling bark off stuff without having to use the edge. This knife would not be difficult to use for making trap triggers. If you don't like that part of the handle, it's a $20 knife. Cut it off, and you're still not going to look goofy. But if you do, it's a good. When you're getting in and getting your hands covered in blood, when you're gutting a deer or whatever, this knife will not slip around in your hands. So, long and short of it, I like it. Now I'm going to take it in the woods and I'm going to beat the crap out of it, and I'll have somebody videoing that. We're also going to maybe do some cordage making and stuff like that. So I'll be prying the inner bark off of trees and probably some sumac and maybe some wild grapevine, that sort of thing, and I'll use this knife for that purpose. We'll see how it holds up. Until then, this is the Ridge Runner signing off. Yes, you might see me again in a couple of seconds when I take the shine off of this and see how that works. Well, I'm back. Told you I might be. Here's the deal. Looking at this knife, I took this stuff here, this M3 cloth, and I dulled it up a little bit. It's still very shiny, but with a little more work, it'll definitely dull down. Best thing to deal with this is obviously to coat it, but it does take. I did dull it up. So it's not mirror polished anymore, but it would definitely take some more work. Whatever. Point is, this is a darn fine knife for $20 or less, and depends on where you get it. So get one. Worst that'll happen is it becomes something you keep in the car, and when you need it in the car, you'll be glad you have it. Good, sharp, awesome knife. Again, as always, this is the Ridge Runner signing off. Bye-bye.